Hello and welcome to Lost in South Oz. Today we're having a look at a photo montage of a visit to the Torrens Island Quarantine Station.
Torrens Island is located a little to the north-east of the commercial area of Port Adelaide and across the Port Adelaide River from Lefevre Peninsula. The quarantine station operated along a fairly strict flow chart of how people moved through the facility from arrival to departure. Initially they arrived by ship because during the station's use, ship was the only access. So they arrived at the wharf and were met by an examining medical officer. Then they divided the group into people without infections and people with infections. Those without went into a waiting area, then they were bathed and disinfected, and those who were considered immune to diseases were released but kept under surveillance for a little while until they were determined to be totally disease free. They weren't going to come down with anything. Those who didn't have any immunity, they went into basically, like on the flow chart, it was called a detention, but basically a holding area. And then after examination, they were subsequently released. Now, those that had infections, they were then worked into one of three groups. One was simply an observation group. The other was the infectious diseases hospital, and the other one was the quarantine hospital. The people who earlier hadn't been, were considered not immune, if their examination revealed any further sign of disease, they went into one of these three areas as well. And it was the people in the hospitals or the observation that subsequently either convalesced from whatever illness they had and were discharged, or else for a few of them, unfortunately, they died and remained on the island in the cemetery. So people arrived on the wharf and they left on the wharf or wound up in the cemetery, and the following photograph is of the wharf.
This is the waiting room for the main area, the first building they would come to, where they would be segregated into class and gender and be then directed to shower, and their belongings would be taken off them and sterilised. In the next picture you would see typical luggage for people at the time. This building is a sterilisation building. Inside is a very large autoclave. People's belongings would be put onto carts that were on rails and then pushed inside the autoclave. Something interesting about the autoclave is the track system went around a lot of the hospital grounds and it connected to the autoclave. This next picture shows the tracks leading straight into the autoclave. After the passengers were processed, they would be led into the bathroom where they were shower and toilet, and the clothing would be removed and taken to the autoclave. Again, there would be some importance of gender, so that one side was for males and one was for females. When we were there, the bathrooms were under restoration, so that's why you see a lot of it looking like it's been dismantled. When they took possession of the bathrooms, they'd been vandalized to a point that they were no longer constructed, so that's why they were being restored. There were several kinds of accommodation for the passengers. Some were like small houses and the rooms are separated, and others were complete units that came later on. So here you're looking at some of the older places that were house-like construction and might have had families in one room or singles. Later on you will see a newer construction where there were separate units for families and so forth. This building is the laundry, so all the bedding and blankets were sterilised in this building, and you're looking at a roller that rang like for wringing out the water. Or after washing them. This building in the picture is the outside of the boiler house. They had a boiler that supplied power to the whole facility, and it was housed in this building. This building also supplied hot water to both the quarantine cottages and the separate hospital. This is a room inside the boiler house that had the generator that supplied power to the quarantine station. This picture is where the boilers once stood. As you can see, the pipes overhead taking the water away from the boiler tanks. And this picture is self-explanatory. It's actually the generator and power plant for the quarantine station. I believe this picture to be a picture of, or partial picture of, the drying racks and the laundry. This is the actual drying racks. They would have had warm air blowing through them. The linen was hung on them, and those racks slid in and out. This is a doorway to the linen store. This is a little room beside the autoclave where some of the items that needed to be sterilised were put. The next picture, we're looking at the morgue and where they laid bodies out. I believe only 4 people actually died on the quarantine station and are buried in the cemetery. It's a very small morgue and very difficult to walk around. And that is just like something to look like a body. It's not a real body. This is the admin building or administration building. It's called Rishogi House. And at this point, we weren't able to go in and have a look at it, but the photos are there for you to have a look at for the outside. The following is the bathrooms for the hospital, so you'd go and get bathed in that before going to the hospital. The hospital burnt down, so wasn't able to get pictures of that. This building is just a maintenance building up near the entrance or where the jetty came in. That's just for grounds maintenance. The following is just, I guess, random pictures of the roadways. There was extensive roadways around the whole of the quarantine station. This is the outside of the shower blocks and its entrance. The following is a picture of the units that were built in the 60s. These buildings were built in the 60s. As part of the tour, we weren't allowed to go in them because they suspected they had asbestos in them. This one we were told was the pumping station. They had underground tanks that had like stone filters, and that was where they pumped fresh water around to everyone. In this next picture, you will see a picture of the incinerator. The hospital sat on the other side of this building, and in the foreground behind me, or whoever took the picture, would have been the bathrooms that you saw earlier. This walkway or driveway drove straight into where the hospital was. The grounds of the Torrens Island Quarantine Station are maintained by friends of the quarantine station or volunteers, and the actual tour was conducted by the Maritime Museum staff. So once a year we have History Week, and you can buy tickets to go and go on one of the tours yourself. Thanks for watching.